On her birthday, Arielle Konig didn't make a wish. She made a choice. Her husband, Gerhardt, took her to the edge of Hawaii's Pali Puka trail for a perfect photo. But he didn't bring a camera. He brought a rock and a needle. This wasn't a crime of passion. This was a clinical, mountaintop execution disguised as a celebration. The man who promised to protect her was now thumbing a plunger, waiting for her to stop breathing. But Arielle didn't fall, and what she told the jury would split a courtroom in half.
He just starts hitting my face and my head with a rock.
How does a birthday hike end in a charge of attempted manslaughter? The truth is hidden in the wind, at the edge of the abyss. The wind at the Pali Puka trail doesn't just blow, it howls. It's a predatory sound, a constant reminder that on the island of Oahu, the line between paradise and a precipice is only a few inches of volcanic rock. Imagine standing there. The Pacific Ocean stretches out like a sheet of hammered turquoise. The air smells of salt and hibiscus. It is Arielle Konig's birthday, a day for new beginnings, for celebrating another year of life. Her husband, Gerhardt, stands behind her. He is the man who promised to protect her, the man who shared her bed, the man who suggested this very hike. He tells her to look at the view. He tells her to step just a little closer to the edge for the perfect photo. But as Arielle stares into the blue horizon, the wind carries a sudden, freezing chill that has nothing to do with the weather. It's the silence behind her, a silence that feels heavy, primal. She turns to see a look in Gerhardt's eyes she has never seen in all their years of marriage, a cold, calculated detachment. And in that moment, she realized this wasn't an accident. To understand the blood on the rocks, you have to understand the rot in the foundation. Hawaii was supposed to be the fix. For months, the Konig marriage had been a house of glass held together by habit. Gerhardt wasn't just a husband. He was a man spiraling. There were whispers of an emotional affair, a betrayal that had cracked the trust between them. The arguments weren't loud anymore. They were quiet, simmering. The kind of silence that fills a room until you can't breathe. Gerhardt felt the control slipping. He felt the life they had built dissolving into legal papers and shared assets. But why a hike? Why the Pali Puka? The trail is notorious. It's a narrow spine of earth with vertical drops on either side. It's the kind of place where a slip is easy to explain and impossible to disprove. As they climbed higher, leaving the lush canopy for the jagged heights, the dynamic shifted. Gerhardt wasn't just leading the way, he was scouting. He was looking for the spot where the ground was loosest, where the witnesses were fewest. He was attentive, too attentive. He kept checking his pockets, he kept checking the horizon. Just a little further, he told her. The best view is right at the Puka. The Puka is a natural hole in the rock, a window to the abyss. As they reached it, the tension between them reached a breaking point. Arielle felt a nagging sense of dread, and the kind of animal instinct that screams run before the mind can process why. She noticed the way he positioned himself. He wasn't standing next to her as a partner, he was standing behind her as an obstacle. The air was thick with the scent of rain and damp earth. They were alone, or so he thought. Every marriage has a breaking point, a moment where the for better or worse finally tips into the worse. For the Konigs, that point was 1,000 feet above the valley floor. Gerhardt reached out. Not to hold her hand, not to pull her close. His hands moved with a sudden, violent precision. But there was just one problem. Arielle didn't fall. She felt the shove, a hard, desperate heave intended to send her into the clouds. but the human body has a way of anchoring itself when it senses the end. She stumbled, her boots skidding on the treacherous basalt, her heart hammering against her ribs like a trapped bird. She looked back at him, and the mask had completely fallen. The man she loved was gone. In his place was a stranger who had decided she was no longer necessary. What happened next would turn a birthday trip into a fight for survival. The shove was only the beginning. When Arielle didn't go over the side, the accident plan evaporated, replaced by a raw, frenzied brutality. This wasn't a movie. There was no slow-motion grace. It was a scramble for life in the dirt. Gerhardt lunged. He didn't care about the look of the scene anymore. He only cared about the result. As they grappled on the narrow trail, the sounds of the island, the birds, the wind, were drowned out by the guttural sounds of a struggle. Arielle fought with the strength of someone who could see their own grave. She clawed, she kicked, she screamed. But Gerhardt was prepared for more than just a physical struggle. In the heat of the fight, he reached for something he had brought specifically for this occasion. This is the detail that would eventually chill the investigators to their core. This wasn't a crime of passion fueled by a sudden argument. This was a clinical execution attempt. He pulled out a syringe. Imagine the horror. You are fighting off your husband on the edge of a cliff, and you see him thumbing the plunger of a needle filled with an unknown substance. He wasn't just trying to kill her. He was trying to sedate her, to make the fall look like a dizzy spell or a tragic loss of balance. He pressed the needle toward her skin, and the silver point glinting against the backdrop of the Hawaiian sun. Stay still, he might have thought, or perhaps he said it aloud. The desperation was palpable, but Arielle was a moving target, fueled by pure adrenaline. The syringe missed its mark, the liquid spraying harmlessly into the dirt or onto her clothes. The plan was failing. The perfect crime was becoming a messy, loud, public disaster. But Gerhardt wasn't finished. When the needle failed, he went back to the earth. He grabbed a rock, not a small stone, but a heavy, jagged piece of the mountain. He began to strike. The blunt force of the mountain itself was used against her. Each blow was a punctuation mark on the end of their life together. He struck her head, her body, trying to break her will to hold on to the trail. She was slipping. Her strength was fading, and the edges of her vision were turning black. She could hear her own blood rushing in her ears, a rhythmic thumping that matched the blows of the rock. She was seconds away from becoming another tragic headline, another unfortunate hiking accident in the rugged terrain of Oahu. But then, the air changed. The silence of the mountain was shattered by a sound Gerhardt hadn't accounted for. Voices. Two hikers, miles into their own journey, rounded a bend. They didn't see a couple enjoying a birthday. They saw a man over a woman, a rock raised high, a scene of absolute carnage. They didn't hesitate. They screamed. They ran toward the chaos. The intervention was instantaneous. Gerhardt froze. The presence of witnesses acts like a chemical reagent on a murderer. It dissolves the intent and replaces it with panic. He dropped the rock. He stepped back. The transformation was haunting. He went from an executioner to a distraught husband in a matter of heartbeats. But the hikers had seen the truth. They saw the syringe. They saw the way he held the rock. They saw the terror in Arielle's eyes. A terror that doesn't come from a fall, but from a betrayal. Arielle was alive. She was broken, bleeding, and shattered. But she was breathing. The hikers shielded her, creating a human barrier between the victim and the monster. Gerhardt stood there, the wind whipping his clothes. his birthday plan lying in ruins at his feet. But what happened after the attack would divide the entire courtroom. The courtroom in Honolulu was a theater of two realities. On one side, you had the prosecution's narrative, a cold-blooded, unpremeditated attempt to erase a wife who had become an inconvenience. They pointed to the location, the syringe, and the timing. Who brings a syringe on a birthday hike? Who uses a rock as a weapon in self-defense against a woman half their size? On the other side stood Gerhardt's defense, and their story was a masterclass in gaslighting. They claimed Gerhardt was the one under attack. They painted a picture of a marriage pushed to the brink by Arielle's own instability. They argued that the struggle was a tragic misunderstanding, that Arielle had lunged at him and he was merely trying to restrain her. The syringe. They claimed it was for his own medical needs, or perhaps a confusing piece of evidence planted by the chaos of the moment. They looked the jury in the eye and asked, "Does this look like a murderer, or a man who broke under the weight of a dying marriage?" But there was a shadow hanging over Gerhardt that no lawyer could explain away. Shortly after the incident, while the investigation was still cold, Gerhardt made a call. He called his son. In that conversation, the self-defense mask slipped. He didn't sound like a victim. He sounded like a man drowning in his own guilt. There were mentions of what he had done, a psychological breakdown caught on tape. The prosecution played the emotional instability of the defendant like a violin. They showed a man who was obsessed with control, a man who couldn't handle the disgrace of a divorce, a man who would rather see his wife in a casket than in another man's life. As the trial reached its climax in April 2026, the public was obsessed. And it had all the elements of a Netflix thriller: the beautiful setting, the hidden needle, the heroic hikers. But the law is rarely as clean as a script. The jury deliberated. They looked at the blood-stained rocks and the conflicting testimonies. They had to decide. Was this attempted murder? Or was it something else? The verdict sent shockwaves through the gallery. Attempted manslaughter. It was a middle ground that satisfied no one. To the prosecution, it was a snub to the clear evidence of premeditation. To the defense, it was a defeat. To the public, it was a haunting ambiguity. The law found that while he intended to cause her death, there were mitigating circumstances, or a lack of the specific, ironclad proof required for the murder label in that jurisdiction. He was not fully innocent, but his intent was not fully proven to the highest standard of the law. In the aftermath, the numbers began to settle. The divorce was finalized in a cold office, a world away from the Pali Puka trail. Arielle began the long, agonizing process of reclaiming her life. Her body bearing scars that would never fully fade, her mind replaying that birthday moment every time the wind picked up. Gerhardt faced his sentencing, a man stripped of his status, his marriage, and his freedom. But the questions remained. Why the syringe? What was in it? If those hikers had been 5 minutes later, just 300 seconds, would the world have ever known the truth? We see these stories, and we want to believe we would see it coming. We want to believe that evil looks like a monster. But the most terrifying part of the Konig case isn't the cliff or the rock. It's the fact that the person holding the camera for your birthday photo might be the same person counting the steps to your grave. If those hikers hadn't been there, would this have been called an accident?